She's giving me a list of jobs to do.
Okay.
The sun's going to tempt me outside.
Morning, Keith.
Right, good morning. Good morning,
Morning,
everyone. And special good morning to Chris. And thank you ever so much for joining us.
No problem. Look forward to it, and look forward to your questions. Ask me if you like.
There's a couple more people going to join in.
Okay.
So I think what we were hoping that you would tell us about your football career
Right.
for maybe 20 minutes or so, 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
And then take some questions.
Yeah.
I'm sure the guys will have to make a mental note or a written note of any questions that they want to ask you, but we'll do the questions afterwards if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Right. What I'm also going to do, I'm going to mute everybody except you. Because I know what this lot are like.
Good idea.
They're terrible.
I don't mind them.
It's awful, that, Keith. You speak for yourself, Mr. Birmingham.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Ron.
Morning, Ron.
There is another reason for that as well, is if it's okay with you, Chris, we do record these video meetings. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason about muting everybody else is setting it up so that you come up larger on the screen. The person who's speaking comes up the largest on the screen. So
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, no problem.
So I'm John and Ron. I'm just explaining to everyone that I'm going to mute everybody except Chris when we get around to speaking.
Morning.
And same with you, Chris.
Morning.
Just tell everyone
Morning,
we're going to mute. I'm going to mute you all, not mute you all, mute you all. So I think we're nearly almost all here. I mean, if we've got 12, maybe there may be another odd one to join in, but
It's good to see an intelligent face on screen for once.
thanks,
Mr. Turner there. No, not you, Keith.
John.
I thought John would have to say that.
Yeah.
John, we can only see, we can't see the bottom of your chin.
You don't want to. I've got an abnormal growth.
I'm just going to take this call. I'll be one.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody, I've just been explaining to Chris and everybody, I'm going to mute everyone while Chris is telling us about his career, and then at the end, I'll unmute everybody and we can start asking him questions, if that's okay with everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Can we door, please? Keith, can we just make the point that we'll be breaking and restarting the Zoom for question time? There'll be a break.
Yeah. Chris, I don't know if Paul's explained to you that we do the meeting in two halves.
Yeah, I know. There's going to be a break. Yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah, it's because
if I get any criticism, I'll not come back.
There's extra time than penalties, isn't there?
You don't get paid, Chris.
Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, everyone. How are we?
Good morning.
All right, Glenn. Just to explain, we're going to ask Chris to do half an hour or 20 minutes, half an hour, talking about his life in football. And then after the break, there'll be questions and that. I'm going to try and mute everybody while Chris is speaking so that it don't keep cutting in and interrupting. Is that all right?
Oh, good. Yeah, good luck with the muting of everyone.
Well, I know how to do it, I think. I might have to do it one at a time. That's Tony, that's Paul, Ron, John, Dave, Big Paul, Ian, I might leave Ian in case it interrupts his filming. So, right, Chris. Can I just check everyone? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Right. All right, Chris. Fire away. I believe you started off as training at Sheffield Wednesday as an apprentice, whatever they were called in those days. So, do you want to take it from there?
Yep. I'll first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to have this little chat this morning, which on this lovely morning for everybody. Right. So, if you want to go through my career, I started off at Sheffield Wednesday in 1977, 76, 77. After playing 5 or 6 years in my latter school years for Sheffield Boys. Goalkeeper, as most of you will know. Strange because I always wanted to be an outfield player. And one of the things I always speak to parents and young players about being a professional footballer, you need that little bit of luck at some stage, either in your career or to start your career. My little bit of luck was when I was 11 years of age, when my school, Shooters Grove, were playing in a five-a-side tournament. And our goalkeeper, Colin Beresford, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, was ill on the morning of the tournament, so he couldn't take part, and he was our goalkeeper. So, having had trials for Sheffield Boys 3 or 4 weeks before, and not made the squad for the under 11s, I was now playing in front of the Sheffield Boys manager at this tournament. So away we go. We're getting thrashed in most of the games because we weren't a really football in school. But I made that many saves in the games that the manager, Vic Spencer, was asking Frank Dobson, our manager, school teacher, who's this boy? Why have I not seen him? He said, well, you did see him 3 or 4 weeks ago, but he didn't make the final 22 or whatever it was. He said, well, I want this boy to come to the next training session as goalkeeper. So that it was. I went to the next session. I got into the Sheffield under 11s, went all the way through to 15s. And then when I left school at Easter, simply for the fact that all I wanted to be was a professional footballer. And I left school at Easter and signed for Sheffield Wednesday, who at that particular time in the 70s, not having a great period of time, down in the third division, as they used to call it. And I joined there as an apprentice, as they called it in them days, for £8 a week at 16. When you became 16, you got £8 a week. When you became 17, you got a massive rise to £10 a week and £2 a week expenses for your mum and dad. My mum and dad have been Sheffield Wednesday fans and obviously taken me to watch Sheffield Wednesday from the early age of 3 and 4. So I'd seen the team of the 60s, which was a good side, and obviously 66 was a great team to watch. But now it was third division days, and my real first manager for me was Ron Staniforth, the youth team coach, and then progressing through to Lenny Ashurst, who in 1977 gave me my first team debut against Walsall, which I have to say was an unbelievable day. Can remember it today, running down the tunnel at Hillsborough. There was only 9,000-10,000 in those days. I mean, everybody talks about their own particular club having 25s and 35,000, 45,000 fans. They forget the bad days, when the days weren't great, when there's only 8,000-9,000 people turning up at Hillsborough in that same stadium. So, 3/4 empty. But to me, it was as though everybody was there. All my mates who I used to go to the matches with, and obviously my family and that, were playing Walsall at home. in League 3, and we actually got a no-score draw, which, you know, not great for the fans, but was great for me because first game clean sheet, etc., etc. And that season, I went on to play 45 out of 46 games in my first season as a 17-year-old. How I did it, I have no idea. Looking back on football and my career, as a 17-year-old boy, to play 45 out of 46 games was an unbelievable achievement, and I really appreciate Lenny Ashurst, who kick-started my career. The one game that I didn't play was Rotherham at home on a Tuesday night. On the previous Saturday, we played Port Vale at home and lost 2-1. And the winning goal for Port Vale came from a corner, which I came for, went straight through my hands, dropped out the other side of me, and they stuck in the winning goal 2-1. So obviously a bad afternoon for me. And the worst afternoon for me was Monday afternoon when Lenny called me into the office, the manager's office at Hillsborough, and said, listen, I'm going to leave you out tomorrow night against Rotherham. I just feel that, you know, after Saturday and wanted to, you know, the team's having a little bit of a sticky period as well. I think that it might be better to rest you and bring Peter Fox back in and let's see how we go. Obviously, I was devastated. I went home and to be honest, I cried because I've been left out the team, my team, and I'm going to miss playing against local rivals Rotherham. Fortunately for me, the team got beat 3-0, and I was reinstated on the Saturday and played thereafter right towards the end of the season, where we finished in the top 10, but touching playoffs in that time, but nowhere near getting near them. So Lenny, the following season, left after about 8 or 9, 10 games. Jack Charlton came in. Jack, as everybody knew, I wasn't the biggest of goalkeepers, and Jack wanted somebody 6 foot plus. In those days, it was 6 foot to be a goalkeeper. Nowadays, it's 6'7", as obviously the human being races are getting taller. But if you're under 6 foot, you were recognised as a small goalkeeper. So Big Jack didn't fancy me for that. And after about a season of battling, trying to convince him this, that, and the other, my contract ran out, and I decided that to play first team football, I needed to move on after having a good season. And I had 2 choices. I had Watford or Sunderland. Now, Sunderland were managed by then Ken Knighton, who used to be a youth team coach for me at Sheffield Wednesday. So I was, in my mind, I was going to go to Sunderland, but Graham Taylor rang me, and Debbie, my wife, and I went down to Watford to speak to Graham Taylor, who we stayed overnight, and then Graham Taylor and his secretary came to see us both the next day. So when they sat down and chatted to us, the figures might not be 100% right, but they offered me £150 a week then, with £50 appearance and a £5,000 signing on fee, 2-year or 3-year contract. And he turned to Debbie and said, and that's in stone. He don't, have you got a job? So she said yes, and he said, can you transfer? And it was insurance, so there's a good possibility. So he said, but having said that, I don't want Chris coming in and knocking on my door after 6 months saying that we're having a baby and I need a rise, etc., which I found quite strange. Anyhow, so I spoke with him. He said, listen, give me a call on Monday. Let me know what you're thinking about it, etc., etc. So before we left Watford, Debbie and I, we decided to go and look at house prices. Now, this is about 1979. Now, we went in one estate agents and said, how much were you looking to pay? So we had a house at Freshville at the time, which we bought for $9,000. And if we wanted to sell it, we'd probably get 12 if we're lucky. So I decided, probably 20,000, stretching it to 25. And the comeback was, well, you'll get absolutely nothing for that down here. You will probably get a semi-detached house, which is what we had already, but you will have to put new windows, new heating and all them scenarios. That's the best you'll get. So when we come out, I turned to Debbie and said, I think we're heading off up to Sunderland. And that's what we did. We headed off to Sunderland, and I had 5 or 6 great seasons at Sunderland, accumulating in playing in the League Cup final against Norwich, gaining promotion in the first season from the League Two, which is Championship, up to the top league of League One in my first season there. I really had a great affiliation with the supporters at the club. I won a couple of Player of the Year trophies and got in my final season a great acclaim for the performances that I put in. As I said earlier, the little bit of luck that you need at times in your career. We were playing Spurs, Chelsea, Watford away, which was interesting, obviously, with Graham Taylor, who'd never lost a League Cup, a cup tie at Vicarage Road. We beat them 1-0. We beat Spurs after a replay 2-1 at White Hart Lane. And then we played Chelsea in two semi-final games to play at Norwich. And they're all obviously on TV, not like TV is today. They were highlighted programmes. But those games put me to the forefront of football, and eventually got my transfer to Manchester United. Financially, the move to Manchester United was slightly better from what was offered at Sunderland. So the decision for me was, do you go for stay at Sunderland, where I played every game for 3 years on the spin, where I was very, very comfortable. We'd just been relegated, having said that, to League Two. But, we're well settled in everything. Or do you take your chance and go to Manchester United to be number 2 to the then Gary Bailey, who's England's number 2, so you're not going to get straight into the team. What do you do? And my decision was to go to Manchester United, because I felt that if at the end of my career, I'd be sitting talking to people and saying, well, I could have gone to Manchester United, the biggest club in the world. So the decision was that I'll go to Manchester United, I'll work hard, I was always confident of I'll get myself a chance. And I went to Manchester United for 3.5 years, and the experience was enormous. Playing for that club, being involved at that club, is second to none. And got friends who I speak to now, and great affiliation in the Ex-Players Association, etc. Even though I knew I wasn't going to be playing from the off, being involved with that football club was enormous. And like I say, I had 3.5 years there, where I played majority of the games in every season, finishing second in the last season I was there under Alex Ferguson. I played under Ron Atkinson for 18 months and 18 months for Alex Ferguson, which you couldn't get two contrasting styles of management. Big Ron was a man manager, let players not do what they want to do, but more relaxed, whereas Sir Alex was a manager that put demands on players, expected to win every week, and was really more in your face, as you may have known. The air drying aspects of his management style in those days was unbelievable. But he always wanted Jim Leighton, who his goalkeeper was in Aberdeen. So he signed Jim. He offered me another contract to stay at the club. But once again, in those days as a player, well, certainly myself, you wanted to play, and you wanted to be in the first team, and you wanted, to be the focal point. Sitting in the reserves and everything else was never for me. I was about 31, 32 at the time. So yet again, a decision had to be made, and Howard Wilkinson, who was at Sheffield Wednesday manager then, wanted me to come back to Wednesday. So I didn't really have, second thoughts at all about going back to Sheffield Wednesday under Howard and Peter Eustace. And, the day I signed for Sheffield Wednesday, Howard, I was sitting outside, I had my medical up at Claremont, up at Hallam, and Howard gave me a piece of paper with the details of my contract, which was fine. And he said, I want you to take your coaching badges, because I want you to be involved in helping Kevin Pressman and Marlon Beresford become, which he felt top-class goalkeepers, which they were. He said, I'd like to help in their progress. And, you know, I want a loyalty to the club, you know, to build a bit like Liverpool, where we've got like the boot room and players, ex-players and myself and that are involved in the club, and be loyal to Sheffield Wednesday. Well, I signed, and 3 weeks later, Howard went up the M1 to Leeds United. So he didn't show the loyalty there to the club. But you know, that's football, as we all know, and the decisions, you know, Howard, and then they went on to win the Premiership, etc. So I mean, great for Howard. But I was being brought back to Sheffield Wednesday to be working with him and working with the team and everything else. But you know, I played at Sheffield Wednesday then for another 3 years. The biggest day, obviously, was winning the League Cup in '91, and you know, the memories of playing in that team, not just in the '91 final, but you know, the season, even though we got relegated, the season before, where you know, the team, the football, the players, the team spirit was unbelievable. You Carlton Palmers, Dan Wilson's, David Hurst, John Sheridan's, Nigel Pearson's, Kingy, great players, great team spirit, and I really enjoyed my time there. And I was a little bit disappointed in the end of that period, because Trevor Francis took over, and I got on very well with Trevor. Some of the players were not too keen, because Trevor was one of them, is probably because I was one of the older players. But Trevor, you know, he'd been in Italy for years, and it was a little bit aloof from most of the players. And I used to sit with Trevor and talk, and Trevor would get on the bus with his Gazzetta Sport Italian newspaper, or his Italian sort of Littlewood's catalogue and Italian clothes of, you know, unbelievable prices. And I think some of the players resented that a little bit. But I always spoke with Trevor, and we went away to America on pre-season, and I always used to say to Trevor, any news on the street, meaning any news about football or anything, and no. And then he came to me one day and said, I've got some news on the street for you. So I said, oh, what's that? He said, Chris Woods is up for sale at Rangers. What do you think? So I said, well, you know, Woodsy. I was England under-18 goalkeeper with Woodsy, so I knew Chris very well. Played against him many a time. He said 1.2 million. Well, I said, that's a bit steep, that, Trevor. Yeah, I know. It's I can't see him getting a move on that. So he then called Kevin and I together and said, well, pre-season starts, first game coming up. We play Portsmouth, the last pre-season game. He said, what I will do, I know you both very well. He says, what we will do is whoever starts the game against Portsmouth will start the season the following Saturday against Aston Villa. So Kevin and I played all the way through pre-season, trained as two goalkeepers all the way through pre-season. Came to the Friday night game, we were playing Portsmouth away. So we're in the dressing room. We don't know what's happening in the team. Trevor got me and Kevin to come into the showers. He said, heads or tails? So I said, what do you mean, Trevor? Well, heads or tails, who's starting the game today? So tossed the coin up, I won. I said, Kevin can start if he likes. I'll go on at half time. That we did. We win the game 2-0. Still don't know what's happening for the game next Saturday against Aston Villa. And then lo and behold, without speaking to Kevin or myself, Wednesday morning, we're off. And it's the big news that Chris Woods is signing from Glasgow Rangers, which was a disappointment that, one, Trevor never spoke to me. I certainly didn't speak to Kevin regarding this. It's not a problem for me. I was 32, 33 at the time. I was a more experienced player, knew that these sorts of things happen in football. Kevin was the opposite. He was absolutely ballistic. He was putting transfer requests in every day whilst Chris Wood had come in. So then another decision for me was when Chris Mark Williams, Leyton Orient, myself, I swapped over because I wanted to go and play football. And then I eventually signed for the Orient. I had 3.5 great years at Orient. Gave me a great experience into football, coaching, management. I was there about 3 months, and Peter Eustace, who was there, the manager, said to me, we've got an offer for you, 100 grand from Crystal Palace. I know they've only been there 3 months. I said, he said, I've not told the directors, he said, because if I told the directors, they'd put you in a car and drive you to Crystal Palace. Because Orient were a selling team, a selling club. We had a great side, good players at that time, exciting team. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday played Orient in the Cup in those early days, and I couldn't play because I was only on loan at the time. You know, they gave Sheffield Wednesday a tough time. So you know, my decision, do I go to Crystal Palace? I just moved in a house in Loughton, where Crystal Palace is based. It's right the other side of London. I didn't fancy travelling across London every day to train. I'd settled in well at Orient, so I decided, no, I'll stay, Peter. He says, oh, fantastic news, fantastic news. Keep this between ourselves. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to make you the assistant manager. So I was looking towards coaching days. And so then I became the assistant manager at Leyton Orient. And the rest was history. Peter got fired further down the line. They appointed John Sitton and myself for 6 to 8 months, I think it was, that season. You only have to go on YouTube. You ask for a £5. The little bit behind that was the assistant chairman came in one day to see John and I, and he said, Channel 4 want to do a documentary on the season for a football club. They fancy us. What do you think, lads? I said, well, I saw the Graham Taylor interview, and not for me. I really not don't think it's a good idea. John was pretty much similar. He said, but lads, it's 75 grand for the club. Well, we were on desperate times in those days at the Orient because we'd run out of place to sell. The chairman then, who was a coffee plant owner in Rwanda, was decimated in his business there. He had loads of property in London, which the market had plummeted. So, you know, 75 grand in them days kept the lights on, kept the showers warm, kept the bus running to matches, which soon ran out, by the way, where we were getting on a bus to go to a game and got kicked off. But that's another story. So we took over, and you know, the rest is history if you watch the YouTube and everything else. And fortunately for me, the girl who filmed it all, without going too deep into it, was very close with John, and John put all that together with her, which like promoted in his eyes John to be the powerful, strong manager that he thought he was. When I left Orient, I spoke with Barry Fry, who then bought the club. He says, Chris, we're looking to bring in a London manager. And, you know, obviously I'm from the north, so they wanted a local manager. So I paid my contract up, kept all my stuff until the end of the season. He says, who do you suggest? I said, well, hey, listen, John's desperate for this job. He said, I said, why don't you have a look at him? So I went downstairs and told him that. And to my surprise, John says, well, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this. He says, I'm doing this with you. I'm not doing this by myself. So John left at the same time, which is surprising when people hear that, because that was his big opportunity. But he'd blown a lot of it by what had been on the Channel 4 programme. And just going back to that, I was sitting at home and Channel 4 rang up and said, the documentary's going out next week. And to be fair, I'd never been thinking about it. So he said, would you like a copy of the VHS tape, as it was in them days? So I said, yeah, I'd like to have a look before it goes out. So anyhow, they sent it me. I looked at it, and boy, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I rang John. I says, John, and I knew he'd seen it because he'd already been sent it. I says, John, you've seen this program, haven't you? No, I've not seen it. I says, John, you'll never work again. What do you mean? What do you mean? I said, you'll never work again. When people watch this, I said, you're going to struggle, John. No. He said, I have seen it. He said, that's going to show people, chairmen, owners, that I can handle first team players. Well, if you've seen it, if you haven't, you want to watch it because it's funny to a degree. But it did him no favours, and consequently, he never got another job in football. And it's sad because he was a very good coach, but the programme did him no favours. So when I left Leyton Orient, quickly I go into my coaching career. I went to Leicester for 12 months and I coached the Leicester youth team with an ex-England international, David Nish, the very first player, believe it or not, and I don't like name dropping, but the very first player I worked with on one-on-one was a guy called Emile Heskey, who went on to have a fabulous career. Now, Emile at 17, as he was a first-year apprentice with us, and I worked on his touch and I worked on him his movement and stuff like that. And we went to play in a mini tournament with Liverpool, Everton, and I think it was Fulham, and he absolutely blew all three teams away with his power, his pace. And when we came back from there, we were playing the very last Saturday before the start of the season, the following week. We're playing Mansfield in our first league game. And within half an hour, he'd scored 4 goals. Mark McGee was a Leicester manager. The first team were playing Notts County in their last pre-season game. He came over to me, he says, Chris, take him off. I said, what do you mean, Mark? He says, take him off. I'm taking him to Notts County this afternoon and I'm starting him. And he did, and he scored. And, you know, Emile's career at Leicester and Liverpool and England is you know, it's there for everybody. Fantastic career. Lovely lad. Very, very quiet. In those days, defenders bounced off him. Obviously, later in his career, he learned the art of falling over and everything else that goes with high-class football, which was a bit disappointing to see. But he had a marvellous career, and as a young player, was totally outstanding. Mark went to Wolves. I went to Wolves, followed him, and had 4.5 years at Wolves, winning the Midlands League, winning cups, had an unbelievable team. Name dropping again, my team had Matt Murray in goals, who was an outstanding goalkeeper, who without injury would have played for England, no problem. He's now on Sky Sports. Jolyon Lescott was my centre half. Once again, England international, Manchester City and Everton. Keith Andrews, midfield player, tremendous player. I had many battles with Keith. Keith was lazy, could spread a ball 30 yards, could bend it round corners, was a great midfield player, but always used to miss out on his little jobs which he was doing at Molineux, whether it be cleaning the boots, doing this, that, and the other. And I always used to know where he was. He'd be in a hot bath, relaxing. So I used to catch him out, get him back into his kit, and run him up and down the stand at Molineux to get his mind and his mentality that he had to work harder. But Keith went on into the first team at Wolves, top Republican international, and had a great career. Once again, Sky Sports is on there. Lee Naylor, left back, he was a tremendous player. And my striker in those days was Robbie Keane, who was a most talented footballer that I'd ever seen at that age. Every week, people would say, who's your number 9? And he used to run riot. Absolutely tremendous, talented boy. And I had 4.5 years at Wolves and had a tremendous time. And one day, PFA came to see me because PFA still do and looked after the young players. And they gave me a little outset into what was happening in youth football, what was coming down the line, that youth coaches had to do a lot more classroom work rather than on the training pitch. So I had a decision to make. Do I want to continue in youth team football, or do I want to go to work with first team players? And my decision was I wanted to go and work with first team players. And now for 5.5 years, learnt the trade as a coach, learnt the trade of working with players. And I decided Hartlepool United, because I lived in the North East for 5.5 years, got a lot of friends there, like the North East. I decided that I'll go for the Hartlepool United job, which I did. I had an interview up in Newcastle with Ken Hopcroft, the owner of the club, IOR. And I had the interview, thought it went very well. Saw people outside after me, saw people who've been in before me, an array of names. And to be fair, I was hopeful, but, you know, your name's in the hat. And I was waiting, no news. And I thought, well, it's been that long. It's been 4 or 5 weeks. The team were losing. They were second bottom, and sometimes bottom of the fourth division, third division, fourth division, and possibility, if not, they were going to go out the Football League. And I'm thinking, time's running out in the season. I'm happy in my job. Yes.
Yeah, Chris, can I just interrupt? We're nearly out of time on this one,
Right.
so
That's fine.
we'll end this one, and then if you can continue on the next one. Is
Okay.
that okay?
I'll have to go back into email then. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Cheers. I'll do
All
that.
right, guys. See you in a moment.